So as the title says, this is a Donda tier list. This is going to be going over the track list. Before we get into that, though, let me introduce our guest, who you'll probably be seeing a little bit more often. I know he's been in a couple of previous videos. He's been on the IG and stuff like that. The dedicated fans might recognize him. This is my brother, Jacob.
Hello, everybody.
Nice
You might notice my dongle. This is because I have these headphones, and I'm listening to the album as we make the tier list for it.
Yeah. So before I played songs, I think the Kanye ones might be a little bit harder. So we're not going to have snippets of the tracks as we talk about them. And also there's 27 tracks. So this is going to be really long. It'd be like an hour or more if we played snippets from that. So we're just going to be going over that. We're going to be going in order. So with that being said, is there anything you want to say about the album as a whole before we get into it?
Every time I listen to it, it gets better. It started out. Oh, and I listened to the LPs, the listening parties. You didn't.
Yeah, so I didn't catch the listening parties. I caught a couple of them. Remind me, there were 3 in total, I think, right?
Yeah, 2 in Atlanta and 1 in Chicago.
Yeah, which is kind of funny because some of these songs, especially the part 2s, I want to say, came together or were created at the listening parties or like in between the listening parties, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. The album was still coming together like during the listening parties.
Yeah, so it's a very interesting dynamic, especially with the album being 27 songs, And heading into this, I also want to say I think this album is really good. I enjoyed it a lot. There's a lot of good stuff on it, but being 27 songs, I was very critical on stuff, especially the part 2s. If you're not familiar with Donda, probably go listen to that and then come back. But there are part 2s of songs which are usually just like an added verse to the original version or like a swapped verse or something like that. So I was very critical on things like that because there are so many tracks. And then also keep in mind that this is a tier list of Donda. So the S tier should be the best tracks from Donda, and then the bottom should be the worst tracks from Donda. It's not necessarily saying that the worst ones are really bad songs. They pale in comparison that much more to the best Donda songs. So with that being said, we have Donda Chant as the first song.
S tier.
S tier. So realistically, I said F tier for this one. If you guys see me holding, I got notes here for like all this stuff, so it's not too like off the rails. Try to like keep it.
I'm off the rails. I'm balancing it the other direction.
Yeah. So anyway, for my notes, I said there's not really a whole lot of cohesion to it. If you listen to the actual Donda chant itself, the ladies
Donda.
the Dondas change a lot. Like some of them will be like Donda. And it's like Donda, Donda, Donda. Like they're all over the place, and it would be like sonically or like they just don't sound good to me. I understand the like reasoning for adding it to the album. I understand the like value or worth or like the experimental aspect to it, but we're viewing these all individually. Like you have to build the tier list kind of when we're looking at it within the album itself. To a certain extent.
But what would the album Donda be without Donda Chant?
I think it would be just the same album. If you want to go into a talk about that, we'll continue that when we talk about the actual song, the self-titled Donda, which I think is more about that. But personally, like I said, I had it in F tier. So
I guess I can go with that.
Would you want to argue for
No, it's
anything
fine.
else?
Go ahead.
All right, so moving on, we have another big song. This is Jail. Actually, I also mentioned that Donda Chant is performed by Selena Johnson. So moving on to Jail, we have Francis and the Lights, which I didn't know was even on Jail, and then Jay-Z. So this is part 1 we're talking about.
Yeah. Huge moment to bring Jay-Z back after like years of not collaborating and them being such big collaborators beforehand.
Yeah, there's
a
Jay-Z.
Like, very exciting. And that was a big moment in the listening parties too.
Yeah, there's a Jay-Z reference to like being return of the throne or returning to the throne or something, which I thought was a cool line that I tossed in there. But I do like part 2 of this more, which part 2 is on the latter end of the track list. We'll get to that later.
Yeah.
But that makes me a little bit more critical on this one, just because there's another direct version of it, just a little bit different. So for that reason, I had this placed at B tier because I do think it's a really good song, but I think part two is better. So I would place that, a little bit higher, which makes me have to position this one a little bit lower in return. So
what do you give it?
I would give it a B.
A B, okay.
But then to go back to the Jay-Z feature and like looking more at my notes, which again you'll see me referring to a lot because we're not listening to snippets of the songs, and there's 27 tracks on here. It's a massive album. I think it spans almost like just under 2 hours. But the spacing on the beginning of the Jay-Z verse I thought was a little strange. He picks up, and I know it's like to an extent some of his style or like his
Jay-Z
flow,
delivery.
but just the delivery of like the beginning of his verse, I wasn't really feeling that much. And then a critique I have for part one and part two is the drum section added to the end of the song. There's been a lot of like debate about the drum section. People saying like, oh, maybe the drum section was in the entire song, but then he moved it out to the last end. But I just really don't care for it at the very end. I think it's a unnecessary addition of like 30 seconds or whatever. So I say B tier.
I gotta listen to this drum section.
All right.
The drum outro?
I think it takes away because
it's a transition. It transitions to the next song pretty well.
So I don't know. I guess I've never reviewed it like that, but it might add value in that case. Would you want to argue anything other than B though?
No, I think B is fine. I think it's a really good track though.
All right, and I agree too, but I think Jail Part 2 is just a better version.
It was one of my early favorites, like from the listening parties and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Jail was like one of the standouts for me.
So
I was like, ooh, what's this?
Moving forward, we have track number 3, which is God Breathed, featuring Vori, who is a very, very, very prominent artist on this album. You see him across probably like half of the tracks, and he honestly kills it throughout the album.
Honestly.
And to get into God Breathed, though, this is the track where it's like, God breathed on this, which...
Very Yeezus vibes.
Very Yeezus vibes?
Yeah.
I don't like how much they repeat God breathed on this. Because when I'm listening to a song and it gets really repetitive, I'll think to myself, all right, like if they say it one more time and then they like move on, it's fine. But this track, God Breathed, is like they do it like 4 more times after I say that. And at that point, I'm just like, okay, move on. It's just too much for me. But there's a large portion of the song that's made up of just Kanye saying, I know God breathed on this and stuff like that. So
yeah.
Not crazy about that. There's also some screams like tied into the beat that I think are, I don't know, maybe
those are Yeezus vibes.
A little jarring, but and then also another note that I had is they got the Halo humming going on. Do you get that vibe listening to it? Remember the like Halo loading screen? You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, exactly. So
I didn't think about that.
Anyway, that's my notes on God Breathed. Track 3, because of the repetition, it really like knocks it down for me. And once again, we're viewing these tracks in comparison to other ones, which I think they're really, really good tracks on this album. So for that reason, compared to other tracks on this album, I would place this in D tier. I'd place it pretty low compared to a lot of other ones.
I don't know. This is a really complex song. It's got a beat switch in the middle. Like, there's a lot going on, and I really like Vori.
But Vori has like undeniably better performances on multiple tracks in this album than on this one.
I don't skip the song when it comes up. I like the song.
I usually don't skip it, but what position do you think?
I could say light C, strong D. Strong D.
I think you mean
between a D and a C. So I could either argue for either.
Well, let's leave it as D tier because once they start stacking up, I think you're gonna be like, all right, yeah, maybe let's keep it there because there's more tracks, like 27 tracks, like really. So moving forward, we got to start speeding this up, I suppose. We got 4 tracks and 10 minutes down already. So
Off the Grid.
Next up is Off the Grid featuring Playboy Carti and 5 Foreign.
Okay, can I just say, dude, this song slaps. Like, when I listened to the album, I was like, holy shit, this is a good song.
Yeah, so...
Like, 5 Foreign raps for like 3 minutes straight, and it's just killer.
Yeah, so 5 Foreign is known for, his drill rapping, so it, like, makes sense for him to come in on this song, especially, like, he's killing it on it. The verses go really hard is what I have. 5 Foreign goes off. He's got, I think, like maybe the longest verse or longest
Easily,
like run
yeah,
of a
yeah.
verse that it just like 2 minutes after he starts or something, you're just like he's like still going at the same intensity. So there's another thing, the hook off the grid. It's really catchy, but I think it's weak in comparison to a lot of the other hooks and choruses on the album. Like
No
just
way.
repeating grid, like it doesn't. I agree, it's like really catchy, but
I don't think it
to
needs
me
to
there are
be
a lot better
strong though.
ones.
The verses are so strong. Like you got
It doesn't
Playboy
necessarily.
Cardi coming in with "Had my key," honest. Like, and
It
they got.
doesn't need to be strong, but there are songs with really strong ones
I
that
don't
we
know.
have to compare it
I
to.
think it's a good balance though.
Yeah,
Not having a strong chorus when the verses are so strong.
I think it's a good track, and I put it at C tier.
Oh, no, dude. It's got to be at least A tier.
Yeah.
I would think this is S tier. Off the Grid is so good.
I would be fine putting it B tier.
No,
I still really don't
A
think it's B
tier.
tier.
A tier.
We can put it B since I'm on C, you're on A.
No, I'm on like A/S.
I'm putting it on B tier.
I would've said
And
S.
we can revisit this.
Dude, also Kanye's outro is so good.
Anyway, moving
We
on to
both got
track
a bag, but my
5.
bag is more heavy.
Moving on to track 5, we have Hurricane featuring Lil Baby and The Weeknd, which I'm not a Lil Baby fan, but I think he sounds really good on this track.
Yeah.
And especially like his voice, his vocals line up really well with the beat, which once again, I'm not really a Lil Baby fan. I don't think I like any of his other music, but I thought his feature was pretty good on this.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any comments about it?
I always like The Weeknd on Kanye tracks, dude.
Yeah, so
Always.
personally, like, I do like The Weeknd, but I feel like he's so played out, like, on the radio. It's like half of the music is The Weeknd, and I feel like what we're getting here is just more of the same old Weeknd that we always hear. I don't think there's anything, like, really experimental. It's like a Weeknd type beat, which I liked songs like Starboy because it kind of stuck out. Like, the beat was a little bit more intense than maybe the normal Weeknd beat, and he was kind of doing a little bit more with that, but this just like The Weeknd's performance on this track just reminds me of his performance on like any other Weeknd song. For that reason, like I kind of knocked the track down a little bit because
Really?
I just wasn't feeling the Weeknd feature. So I put this one at C.
Of course you did.
I mean, once we get moving
No,
on, you're gonna be
dude.
like,
This is a good track.
not everything can be S tier or A tier. It has to be. Like,
no, I understand that, but like Off the Grid and Hurricane are like two of the best tracks of the album, in my opinion. But yeah, no, I love it, dude. I think The Weeknd on a gospel beat, like, that's experimental. I mean, his delivery is not experimental, but like the whole composition is experimental, especially like you mentioned with Lil Baby sounding like the best he's ever sounded.
All right, so
B
speaking
tier.
about babies, the next song, track 6, is Praise God featuring baby Keem, and then
And
also
Travis Scott,
Travis
right?
Scott. So
And Donda intro.
I really, really, really like the Donda intro where they talk about even though
you aren't ready for the day,
it cannot always be night.
night.
I really love that intro. I
Love
think
that
that's
intro.
a really good intro. Moving on to the features, though, I think this is kind of like a mediocre Travis Scott feature. I think he's done better features and he's gone harder on some of his own songs. I don't think it's necessarily a bad Travis Scott feature, but I wouldn't say that it's like, wow, like I'm really surprised by this feature from it. And then moving on to the Baby Keem.
Baby Keem feature's so
The
good.
Baby Keem verse, I actually had some critiques of because the beginning is really repetitive. If you're listening to it right now, what's he say? He keeps repeating the same thing. But anyway, it's really repetitive. And then this album is all clean, like censored, no swear words. And I think his verse or his feature is one that really suffers from this because there are parts in the beat that are like maybe a little bit quieter, or he has a lot of like swear words, curse words in his verse that just sound like a little corny because they're being cut out so many times. And then I think he returns back to the repeated portion of the verse at the end after all these swear words. So to me, it felt a little bit hollow because there's kind of like repetition, kind of corny that all this stuff was cut out, and then repetition again. But I do think how he cleans it up at the end is pretty good. And I'd still say it's a good performance from him, but for those reasons, like those are kind of the critiques I noticed while listening to it.
So what's your rating?
I
You
put
say
praise,
D tier?
I put Praise God at B. I really like the intro, and I think these are
Yeah.
still good features, but those were, the critiques that keep it from being, higher than
Yeah.
maybe some other stuff.
I think Praise God's B or A. I really like Praise God.
All right, well, we can settle on B, and we'll take a look at the end and rearrange stuff if we need to. But moving on to track 7, Jonah featuring Lil Durk and then Vori, I had at S tier. This is the very first one where Vori really shows up his like vocal chops, or like their auto tune is just insane, like next level. Beautiful, like, what do I have here? I just said Vori kills the chorus. I have some other stuff like calling things like angelic and whatnot, but this is a really beautiful song. I love the chorus. Lil Durk comes through with a really like heartfelt feature, and just really strong. And this is one of my favorite tracks off of the album. I listen to every time. I think it's a really good song.
It's really good. It was like it is one of the songs I think that gets better every listen because it's so complex. Like there's the two features. Does Kanye have a verse? I'm sure he does.
There are actually some songs that Kanye is like not even on.
Like which ones?
We'll get to it.
Okay.
I think there's one that I was like going through and I was like, Kanye's not even on this. Oh, Moon, I think maybe.
Could be. No, he like harmonizes on Moon, I think, doesn't he? But
it's
like,
on his album.
it.
But anyway, are you fine with S tier? That's a beautiful song.
When you text me, reply with only no cap.
All right. Anyway, moving forward. Next up, we have track 8. This is OK OK, featuring once again 5 Foreign and then Lil Yachty. So.
And he also says R.I.P. to Juice in this one. I appreciate that. You don't like that?
I think it's fine, but just like I thought that part of the song was a little corny. He says something about Juice, and then he's like R.I.P. Juice, which I thought was a little corny. Like I don't have any issue, obviously, with him, acknowledging and like saying something like that. But I just thought maybe in the track it sounded a little cornier, came at like the wrong time. Maybe at the outro would be a good point when like the beat's dying down and you don't have to, I don't know, pick it back up after. But yeah, I think Lil Yachty had kind of a weak verse, and let's see, the whole song seems like it's building up to something inside itself, like not next to the album, but it never really comes. Like, do you get that feeling listening to like the beat? It's kind of like building, but it never really hits like the intensity that it kind of seems to be building towards.
Maybe. I guess I get that.
Anyway, I put this one at C. I think it's like middle of the road song. I think it's good, but not anything special.
She's good.
All right.
And then we have Junior Watanabe on my brain.
Moving forward, yes, we have track 9, Junior, this time featuring Playboy Cardi. There's also a part 2 that we'll talk about later, and I actually think part 2 is better. I think part 2 is a lot better, and for that reason I had this Junior. Once again, keep in mind there's a part 2 out there that I think is better. So, like I said, I'm going to be really critical on just the same exact song, just a little bit different version. So I put this one at D tier. I'm also not a huge fan of the like Junior one. Like I think Junior gets a little like some of the chorus in this gets a little bit annoying.
Yeah, it's a bit repetitive. Yeah.
Anyway, moving forward, we have Believe What I Say. I said that this is a jumping, bumping beat. Do you get that feeling? Like it's kind of like a bouncy. Yeah. No. Believe What I Say.
What did you give that one for?
I gave Junior part 1 a D.
D. Okay.
Anyway, Believe What I Say. I said it was like a jumping, like bumping, kind of like a bouncy beat. You get that feeling?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like what era of Kanye this sounds like.
And another thing I really like about this track is he's like, don't let the lifestyle drag you down. I love that part. Don't let the lifestyle.
Oh, this is so Graduation.
I really like it.
This sounds just like Graduation.
Oh, there's also an ending narrative to it where somebody comes on, says something.
That's
and then they transition back into I think like don't let the lights down, like something like that. But I think you could have done without the ending narrative, especially since this track or this album is so long already. I don't think it takes away too much from the track, but just a 2-hour long album, 27 tracks. The drum section, kind of the same thing. It didn't need to be there with it being this long, but I really, really like this song. I love the lifestyle and stuff like that. I put it at B tier.
B tier?
This is one of the good songs.
This is one that I don't listen to intently every time it comes on, but I feel like it's just like Jonah, where it gets better every listen.
Yeah, it's a good one for sure, and it's got like a really like I don't know like summery beat, like I said, the
Yeah,
bouncing.
it's definitely Graduation. It sounds like Graduation.
All right, so moving forward, we have track 1124 featuring Bori, which I think this is Kobe, right?
No, 20. Oh, wait, Kobe? Oh, yeah, this is about Kobe. Yeah.
Right, that's what I thought anyway. And I like this one, but I think the other gospel type tracks on the album are better. Like I think there are better gospel. I think there are better gospel type tracks on the album. So like I'm going to be a little bit more critical of this one because I think there's just better sounding ones on the album, and this is falling into that same category. So going into it, that's how I viewed it. I ranked it a little bit lower because what I just said, and I put it as C tier.
Wow, I think it's an A tier song. This song is so good. Yeah.
You keep pushing. You're pushing like all these ones. You're trying to push like all these up, but we're getting to a really good. Yeah, this middle section of the album I think is maybe where the best stuff is.
I think the beginning, the middle, and the end.
I think the beginning is like a little iffy, and then the end, a lot of the part twos, I'm kind of like it. But I think the middle has like a lot of meat to it. So moving forward, track 12, we have Remote Control featuring Young Thug, and I think this is a good Thugger feature. Kanye's killing his part. The chorus on remote control, like a CEO, I thought was kind of corny. And then they also talked about hovercrafts, which I don't know. I thought it was kind of corny. Young Thug does kind of have.
Then you got the glove man at the end. Like this whole thing is just like, it's got some memes, but it's like got a good sound. It's like a fun song.
Yeah, exactly.
And Young Thug's on it. I love this song.
I think it does sound really good, but once again, like those are my critiques. That I'm trying to see like everything wrong, or not necessarily wrong, just in my mind, like what could have been improved.
I just think this is a super easy listen. Like,
I put this one at B tier. A tier.
Actually, this is my S tier. The first listen through, I was like, this is my favorite song on the album.
I'll put it in A, and then, like I said, we'll revisit everything at the very end, and we can adjust basing on like how things are stacking up, because there are going to be sections that are going to be a lot fuller, and keep in mind this should look kind of like a bell curve or whatever.
No, it doesn't have to. Who makes that rule?
It doesn't have to, but it can't all be really good and it can't all be really bad. Like we should be. I mean, I guess it is a really good album, but we're trying to define it in an interesting way that shows trying to pick apart what's good.
Yeah, it would be pretty interesting if we just had them all in A.
Anyway, moving forward, we have track 13, which is Moon. This is kind of like the radio, the like big.
Yeah, this is a crowd pleaser.
Yeah, the crowd pleaser from the album.
Not a hype.
On the features, we have Don Toliver and then also Kid Cudi. And this is one I was talking about when I wrote down Beautiful Angelic feature from Don Toliver, which I'm not a fan of Don Toliver's solo stuff because it just all sounds the same, especially when he's on the entirety of the track. Like him doing verses and the chorus, I think it just all blends together. But I really love a lot of his features, and I think this one is definitely one of his better features. I think he sounds really good, talking about the moon, leaving, things like that. And then Cudi comes in to tie it together in between the choruses from Don Toliver and then also Kanye. I guess just harmonizing. I didn't notice him at all on this track, like in terms of verses, or actually really just like at all. But I think this is a really good song. I think it's tied together really well. I would put this one at S tier because the Don Toliver feature is beautiful. It's tied together really well. I honestly can't find any negatives about this. I do think it's kind of weird that Kanye wasn't on the track.
He is there. You can hear him at the end.
The very end.
Yeah.
Would you put this at S tier?
You're
fine with S tier. Good song.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, we have track 14, which is Heaven and Hell. And I think this is a heavy-hitting, high-energy track, and it feels a little less structured than a lot of the other songs, and more to me like a freestyle. Do you get that feeling?
Somewhat. This sounds a lot like Wash Us in the Blood to me, like the second verse in Wash Us in the Blood, where he's got that like really solid, heavy delivery, and he's like, no more promos, no more photos. But it just like this is one of those songs where I listen to the lyrics and I'm like, dang, I love this.
All right, so I think this is your favorite one off the album, right?
Yeah,
what would
this
you rank it?
and
What
all
would you
the
put it?
others. I'd put this at S tier.
S tier. I had it at B tier. We've talked about this. How I was kind of like iffy
At
about
first,
it
we were like,
first.
I'm not saving this. I don't care about the song.
No, I said I almost didn't save it, but like I said, I had it at B tier. You got S. We'll put it at A for the middle. Once stuff's stacked up at the end, we can come back and revisit everything. So, moving on. Next, track 15, we have Donda featuring Ariana Grande, which I didn't know was in it, and then Tony Williams. And this is obviously the title track, the album being called Donda. If you didn't know, that's the name of Kanye West's late mother, who passed away several years ago, like 2012 or something.
Yeah, sounds about right.
But yeah, this is the title track. Tony Williams, I want to say, is the one on the back end, comes in with the beautiful "It's Our Kingdom," stuff like that.
Okay.
I really love after the Donda speech, because the majority of this was like, the prominent part of this track is an actual like excerpt from Kanye's mom, Donda, talking about Kanye. And then I think it's Tony Williams that comes in afterwards and, has what I said before, which I think is... Yeah, exactly. And I think the speech that she delivers is really powerful. She's like talking from like a really caring and empowering stance on her son, which I think is a cool thing to include. The album is called Donda.
Yeah.
And the beautiful transition out of it with the like choir and everything, I just think lines up really well. I don't think there's anything that could have been done better on this track, but
it's kind of an interlude track a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. But because I don't see a lot wrong with this track. I like the way it sounds. Powerful speech from Donda. I put it at A tier.
Yeah.
I think it's a really powerful, breakup in the album, like midpoint. So moving forward, we have "Keep My Spirit Alive" featuring a lot of people. We have Kanye the Machine, Westside Gun.
Kanye the Machine? You mean KC the Machine?
Conway the Machine. Westside Gun, and then KC. And Conway the Machine and Westside Gun you'll see featured a lot, as well with like Benny the Butcher. But the Westside Gun feature in this, I really, really like. He has a killer verse. The beat matches his style perfectly. If you listen to like some of his other music and things like that, I think he sounds really good on this track. Also with an angelic chorus where the beat cuts to this kind of like heavenly sound, kind of cuts out of this more rappy and more towards
like organs.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
songs.
More of like a gospel type thing, something you'd hear in church. And then Conway the Machine comes in toward the back end before the Kanye feature, and also gives another really
Kanye
good
feature.
My bad. My note says feature.
No, you're totally not wrong.
Before the end, he comes in and gives a really good feature right before the Kanye verse that wraps it up. But I think this is a really good song. I love the features from it. Westside Gun just has a killer intro. It's a nice chorus. I love the beat switches. Makes it like kind of fresh, because I want to say it is a longer song, right? Do you have the runtime right
340.
Yeah. Oh, all right. Well, 340 I can appreciate with 4 artists on the song that they kept it under 4 minutes. So I do like that. It keeps it fresh with those beat switches between the chorus and then the verses. I put this at A tier. I think it's a really good song.
Yeah. It's a much shorter song than Jesus Lord, which is next, which is 9 minutes.
Yeah. So next up, track 17.
Jesus is Lord, or Jesus Lord has the outro too, where I forget who it is or what his name is, but he talks about like the criminal justice system and like finding justice for his father. I think it's a really interesting outro, but it's like 2.5 minutes, so it's a long time. But
I think
it's
like
a total Kanye thing to do.
It is really interesting. Let me intro the song first before you get all the way into it.
No,
Track 17.
I don't get to
Jesus Lord. You don't have the features. This is featuring The Locks, Jay Electronica, and then also Swiss Beats.
Okay.
What you were saying about that, I think the track, for me, comparing it to a lot of the other ones, is too long. It's 9 minutes. I'm not really going to add...
It's 6.5 minutes,
a
and
9
then
minutes.
there's a 2.5 minute outro.
Anyway, if you're not by your device and able to skip it, you're going to be listening to this thing for 9 minutes. And I think it is a good song, but just anything that long, I'm going to tend to like shy away from because of the like sheer length of it. I don't think that takes away from, the story they're trying to tell, and I respect that a lot. But just in my opinion, I'm going to get a lot more enjoyment out of these songs that are,
3-4 minutes.
yeah, more digestible, I suppose. But, that being said, I think there's a very important story told inside it, and I think there's like a lot of worth that something like that does add to the album.
The next song.
I put this at C tier.
C tier? I could say D tier on that one.
D tier? Alright, we can put it at D. Or let's put it at C. C's looking a little smart by B and A. But
right.
we'll come back. Anyway, next up we have...
If you hit you with that WID, what are you going to hit me with?
Hi with a bunch of eyes, or...
Hey with a bunch of Ys.
So we have New Again featuring Chris Brown, which I didn't know he was on this.
No.
And I really, really, really love the intro. We got, what we just said. He's like, hey, with the WYD, better hit me with hi with a bunch of eyes, hey with a bunch of Ys. I really, really like that. But I think, that's a really fun intro going on there. I think the Make Me New Again chorus is like, it's not as fun as the intro.
Make me new again. I love it, dude. I love the chorus.
Yeah, I think it's good, but there are other choruses on this album that are better. And for how much I enjoyed the intro with the highs and hays, I would have liked to have just like a really, really killer chorus for them to come back to after something fun like that. Or maybe if they would have repeated like the highs with a bunch of like in that, maybe one more time at the like 2/3 point, it would have been cool. But I think those are my critiques for the track. I really like the intro. I listened to this song. It's one of like my more favorite ones, and I have this at B tier.
Yeah, B tier sounds good.
B tier. All right, so moving forward, we're on the last page. We got number 19, Tell the Vision, featuring Pop Smoke, who is, of course, a late rapper. This is a posthumous feature, and that being said, this is pretty recycled material. You can tell that by the low quality of the audio of the verse. Like, it just sounds kind of bad. Even when he cuts out of the track and they cut to like just the beat, you can hear like the hard cut of the audio because it's such low quality. And I think this is also like a direct rip from another like Pop Smoke song that maybe released on his album that came out like a month or two ago. I might be wrong there, but I've definitely heard this before. I want to say maybe it was a leak.
It could have been a leak too.
Also, Kanye's not even on this track.
Yeah, this is.
And I think this is really unnecessary, especially given the low quality of it, like of the actual recording. So I put this as F tier because I just really didn't think it needed to be on this album.
Yeah, I'm with you. This is probably the worst track on the album.
All right, moving forward, we have Lord I Need You, and this, yeah, my note was he shouts out the T-Bell and KFC joint ventures.
I love that line, dude.
For that reason, S tier.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding.
No. This one was originally it was titled something about my family, like How to Lose Your Family or something like that. So this song is about like him and Kim.
This is the one where he's like, when you said a ring, you really meant a ring, huh?
When you said give me a ring, you really meant a ring, huh? Yeah.
Yeah. So I really like this song. I have it listed here as A tier.
I think this is S tier.
S tier. I was gonna say
even when we in dad shoes.
I would also put it like S tier. I'd be fine putting S tier because it was like a really deep, like the ring, like talking about his marriage and stuff. Is very like, you can feel the emotion behind it. Yeah. Moving on, we have track 21, Pure Souls, featuring Roddy Ricch and Shensi. I don't know. I'm butchering that. But anyway, we're deep into it. I'm getting 070 vibes, 070 Shake, of course, vibes from Shensi.
Sure.
I think the Roddy Ricch feature is good.
So good.
And then Kanye doing his thing. It gets a little bit long, but it's still a good song. It's like 5 minutes.
It's like 6 minutes, yeah.
6 minutes, 6.5 maybe.
So
yeah, I like it. Like I said, it's getting, kind of out there to that range where it's like, but I had
the one where he's got the.
I did B tier.
B tier?
B tier. B's fine. All right. Next up, we have Come to Life, which is one of my favorite songs on this. I think it's a very beautiful song.
Amazing song.
I love the piano interlude or switch up that they swap to about halfway through the song.
Gets better every listen.
S tier.
S tier.
I really, really, really enjoy this song.
Absolutely.
All right. Moving forward, we have No Child Left Behind featuring Sunday Service as well as
Yeah.
Vori. And I think this is a little hollow as far as
No.
no, I think this is a little hollow as far as vocals go, but it has like it's so like angelic. It's a Sunday service, it's a gospel. It doesn't it
Yeah.
doesn't need the
Yeah.
vocals, but being on a rap album or I'm not
No,
sure if
you
this is
can't
like
say
no
that.
no
You
no.
can't say what you said about Jonah and then say this about No Child Left
I
Behind.
have this put in A tier.
S tier.
S tier.
Back again, I have
If
my
we
back
put
against the wall.
if we put this as an S
Oh,
tier, then it's gonna have more than A's. Like we gotta have some like
it's okay.
balance.
Move some of the ones you put in C that I wanted in A up in A.
I don't think so. The tier list is getting out of control. We need to,
That's 'cause I
trying
can't see
to
it.
maintain this. I'm gonna put No Child Left Behind in A. We can revisit
Uh,
that and swap stuff up. Anyway, moving forward, we have Jail Part 2 featuring DaBaby and Marilyn Manson, who
Both have
a very
controversial.
controversial track and decision to place it on the album. There was the post on the release night of Donda saying
Yeah.
that it didn't get added. When I checked out Donda, it had Jail Part 2, but I guess when it originally got uploaded to Apple and Spotify, Jail Part 2 was missing
Yeah.
because of disagreements or like no existing agreement between Kanye and the label about
And
including these controversial
Kanye
figures.
wouldn't take no for an answer because DaBaby was the only one to publicly endorse his run for president.
Yeah, but I mean, you also have features on this album like Chris Brown, who also,
Yeah,
years and years of
controversial.
controversy. I think this is a fire song though. Like I said, I ranked Jail Part 1 B tier because I thought Jail Part 2 was a lot better. I really, really love Marilyn Manson's just tiny touches to the song.
Yeah.
DaBaby comes in and at the beginning of his feature and says something like "Open up the jails," and then Marilyn Manson harmonizes along with some backup singer, maybe it's Kanye even, and they say like "Open up the jails," but he has this super deep voice. I think those like little touches are really cool. It's the devil's in the details. Like the details really can push a song
Well, that's Kanye music,
next
dude. You
level.
listen to all
Exactly,
the
but
layers and the levels and all the sounds, you're like, oh.
exactly, and this is
Amazing.
one of those things that stood out to me. I really like it. I've never cared for too many DaBaby songs or verses, but I think this is the best verse I've ever heard him deliver. Kanye obviously killing it, doing his thing too. I really like the "I'm pulled over and I got priors, guess I'm going to jail tonight." Like
Yeah.
I think that's funny.
It's a
It
good
sounds
line.
good. It's clever, and there's also a crazy build up on the beat too.
Yeah.
I think this is a really, really good song. I love these features. I enjoyed the Jay-Z one, but I think these ones add more to this song. And for that reason, I had it at S tier. This is one of the ones that I'm always listening to. That's a really good one. So, moving forward, we have OK OK Part 2 featuring Shinsei. And I'm not feeling the added Shinsei
Really?
verse.
I love the Shinsei verse and the Shinsei outro. Dude.
But yeah, I think OK OK Part 1 is better. I had this at D tier. And we had OK OK at C tier. All right, moving forward, track 26, we have Junior Part 2, once again featuring Playboi Carti as well as Ty Dolla $ign. The Playboi Carti in this one, the Playboi Carti verse from the original one is actually extended, and then they also add a Ty Dolla feature, which I think the Playboi Carti feature is a lot better with the included portion because the original one, I think they cut off like the first part of it, and to me, it really needed that first part because the feature that it had on just the part 1 was kind of like getting into like like you have this verse and they cut off the beginning and just do the middle and end of the verse. Like you're missing the thing that like intros it. So I think it's a lot better as like a whole. Turn that down.
Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
can hear it. And then I think the Ty Dolla verse is also really good. So for that reason, I think this is better than the first one. I put this as C tier because we had Junior, whatever, part 1 as D tier. So last one we have is Jesus Lord Part 2.
Now, in case the first one wasn't long enough,
We have
this one's
2 more
11 minutes and 30
minutes. Yeah.
seconds.
All I had for my notes, way too long, over 11 minutes. Once again, I think there's an important story to be told here, but stacked up against a lot of the other ones. It's just not as digestible. So for that reason, I had it as C tier, which I think might be
C tier.
yeah. which is also, once again, the same rank as before. And then we're done with the notes, and we have the final power ranking, which I think our distribution is pretty good. We had some songs that you argued out of D tier, which would have had it stacked up a little bit more, bell curve-esque. But I think where we're sitting is pretty good. Like I'm pretty happy with this. Some songs that I wouldn't include in A tier would be maybe Remote Control, for the reasons that I said. Like I think Keep My Spirit Alive and No Child Left Behind are like a lot better than Remote Control. I'll also say that they're very different songs.
They're different,
it's like apples and oranges, but to me, I think there's a lot less things that I could point out that are wrong with those than.
I don't like Off the Grid in B tier, man. Off the Grid should be an A tier.
I think it's such a basic Off the grid. It's like
tattoos on my red.
I'm just I don't know. I've always shied away from really repetitive tracks and choruses. That's I'm a big Schoolboy Q fan, but his music suffers from that a lot. So a lot of his will be skips for me for that reason. And then I notice it in other I was saying, I'll listen to a song and they repeat something a bunch. I'm like, okay, one more time, you gotta move on. They do it 4 more times in this song. It's just so much. It's way too much. But I think we're good with this. I think this is.
I think Donda Chant should go in D tier. It's better than Television.
Yeah, but it's nowhere near as good as
I know
Junior and stuff. I don't think.
Yeah, I suppose you're right.
It has to stack up with some kind of Bell-esque.
Here's what we can do.
I'm happy with this. I'm content with this.
We could put 24 in B tier.
40 minutes. We were talking about doing 20 to 30 minutes, but somebody
we'll edit.
Trying to argue. We'll edit. You're gonna help out with this?
I'll just.
Anyway,
do a TikTok 3 minutes.
I'll edit this later and have to deal with all this, but I'm obviously pleased I argued a lot of my cases. I'm the one in charge of the mouth. I got to do my thing a little bit more than maybe yours, but I'm pretty happy with this. Once again, it's a 27-track album. It's almost 2 hours long. I'm still familiarizing myself with it, so I'm sure over time, I could pound out a more accurate representation of my thoughts. But for the most part, this is roughly where I would rank things, give or take, a level or so. So I'm pretty content with this. At the end of the day, I think this is a really good album. I really enjoyed it. There's a lot of stuff.
Would you say it's your favorite album?
No, I wouldn't say it's my favorite album.
Would you say it's up there with your favorite album? What's your favorite?
Sure, I really enjoyed it, but I think there's also a lot of stuff that could have been cut. I'm glad we have it. Kanye doesn't release too often, so it's nice to have all these tracks, even if they're not the best track or anything. But if he was going for the best album and he wanted to cut it down to 15 songs, I think he could have made a really, really solid album. Just having those 15 songs, where every single one was just a total masterpiece. He could have, if he could have cut, S through B. half of C tier, that'd be a very, very solid album.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are my thoughts. This has been my ranking. Is there anything else you want to say to people?
No.
All right. Well. Thank you guys for watching. If you just jump into the end to criticize us, at least go back and listen to some of our reasoning behind the songs for why we place them. That always happens. People just watch the tier list videos and they cut to the end and they're like, why'd you place this here? It's obviously the best song on the album, but they never listen. Yeah. But anyway, thank you guys for watching, and we'll catch you in the next video. I'm not sure what you're going to pop up in next, but you'll be there.